I think let's do Netflix first. Keep on the Netflix train since we kind of started with that. So, Eric,
sense.
what do you got for Netflix?
I have a movie that is really exciting to me, actually, called Here Comes the Flood. And it is slated to be, just catch the summary here. Denzel Washington will star in this heist thriller alongside Daisy Edgar-Jones and Robert Pattinson, with Fernando Meirelles directing. It's described as an unconventional heist movie about a bank guard, a teller, and a master thief in a deadly game of cons and double crosses. If this sounds like every crime movie of the last 20 years, that's not a deterrent for me, because I will watch Denzel Washington in anything, also Robert Pattinson in anything, and it's the director of City of God, which is one of my absolute favorite, just like an insanely amazing, colorful, harrowing story that this man just like depicts life in such a way that you just have to see everything he's ever done. So off the strength of that alone, plus Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I love anything with Denzel.
And written by Simon Kinberg, who is responsible for my favorite X-Men movies, I believe. So, with Fox.
Nice. For me, I was really excited to see that season 4 of The Diplomat is going to be released. Have any of you watched it at all?
Is that Carrie Russell?
It is.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I hear good things about it.
Yeah, so the basic premise is that she becomes the new U.S. ambassador to the U.K., and in this role, she's helping to diffuse international crises, and she forges all these strategic alliances. And kind of all in the background while this is happening, like she's basically being positioned as a replacement for the current vice president of the United States. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers about things that start to happen, but her husband is also very much involved in a lot of shady activity, and he's been a diplomat himself in the past. And so a lot of his connections come into the fold, but it's very kind of high energy political thriller type of show. It also stars Allison Janney, who I think most of us probably know from West Wing. She's obviously done many other things, but yeah, it's a really great cast, and it's an easy watch. Like, it's a bingeable watch, and I really enjoyed the first 3 seasons, so I would highly recommend it.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely something that's been on my list. So I'll have to bump it up a couple of spaces in your honor, Micah.
Yeah, love it. And then I see, Laura, you and I both flagged All the Sinners Bleed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for this. It's another Higher Ground production, which is the Obamas production company.
Ooh, okay.
Most recently, they did Leave the World Behind a couple of years ago at the holidays. Did anyone else catch that?
No.
It's so good.
Wait, I guess I did. That was the one where they, like, it's the end of the world and they have to, like, go running, right?
Yeah.
I watched it on your recommendation and it was really good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's basically about, like, what do different people do in the scenario where they have to run and hide because it's the end of the world. And obviously some people have more resources to do that than others, and I think that's the whole point. But it's a really, really well done movie. They did such a good job on it that I feel really excited about All the Sinners Bleed. It's going to be I believe like a 9-part series. Am I right on that, Micah? Like 9-episode series.
Yeah, and just to give a little bit of context, the synopsis for it is: haunted by his past in the FBI and his devout mother's untimely death, the first black sheriff in a small Bible Belt county must lead the hunt for a serial killer that has quietly been preying on black communities in Southern Virginia for years. All in the name of God, of course. So
Yeah.
Sounds intense.
But I have no doubt that it'll be very well done. Because everything that comes out of Higher Ground Productions has been really impactful that way. So I'm looking forward to it.
I really like that. Sounds reminiscent of, I think it was on Netflix, Mindhunter.
Oh, yes.
David
that was
Fincher's
good
show.
too.
Mindhunter is
Such a good
so
Yeah.
good. So
I was
disappointing
disappointed, yeah.
that it got canceled.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think we've talked about it in passing, but just the amount of detail and effort that went into casting so many of the serial killers, because they were cast so that they looked exactly like the real life versions of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
even fought Quentin Tarantino for some of that casting. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I was
But
always
yeah.
curious, and sorry, we can pivot after this, but did we think that he was going to become one himself?
I
no?
never personally did, but I think you're supposed to think that. But yeah, I mean, it freed up, that show getting canceled freed up Jonathan Groff to do maybe some of the most important work of his career on Broadway, but time will tell. So
Yeah. I want it back, though.
yeah.
Well, what else are we looking forward to on Netflix? Pam, you and I have a shared fandom that we're excited about.
Yeah, so we got some big Bridgerton updates as part of the Upfront presentation over on Netflix as well. We got our first clip from season 4, where we see Benedict, who's the season lead, see the lady in silver for the first time. It's a really sweet little, like, love at first sight scene, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It was very cute.
Yeah, and then perhaps most exciting, we got news that the series has officially been renewed for season 5 and season 6. So there's going to be a lot of Bridgerton to come for the next few years if you're a fan of this show like Laura and I are. And if you do want more Bridgerton content, we did do a YouTube special episode breaking down the nitty gritty of all this news that came out of Upfronts for Bridgerton, and we also packed in a couple of other season 4 tidbits that we've gotten over the course of the last few months, including breaking down some first look images and then a behind the scenes package that Netflix also dropped back in February.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. And yeah, you can head on over to that video on our channel. It actually just went live there this past Wednesday, if you're listening to this episode when it comes out. But we'll also be sure to link to it in our show notes. Netflix has a few things that stuck out to me that I wanted to call out. We've already touched on a couple of them, but I just wanted to mention, with the exception of a portrait of the Addams family, there were no Wednesday updates that came out of Upfronts, although Pam, you did, I think, call out that outside of Upfronts, they dropped another behind the scenes sneak peek.
I love this, just like a small like aside, I love that they have Catherine Zeta-Jones fencing because she was in The Mask of Zorro too in the 90s, so it's a nice little callback to something that happened earlier in her career. But yeah, the show is, everything that's come out of Wednesday season 2 looks fantastic so far.
I agree. And it seems like Catherine Zeta-Jones is going to get more screen time this time around, just based off what they were saying in the sneak peek. So I'm excited for that. That was the one thing about season 1. I felt like I didn't get nearly enough Morticia. So excited to see that that's going to change this time around.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they continue to build out the family. I know they said they don't have a whole lot of lore to be able to work with, but it seems like they're doing a good job with Pugsley. We got a shot of Lurch there, and then obviously Grandmama seems like she's going to be a Spitfire, so definitely must see TV whenever she's on screen. What I was surprised about, and maybe not so surprised, is that we didn't get any of the kind of cameos that we heard about in any of this behind the scenes either, right? Like we talked about when we did the teaser trailer episode, Lady Gaga is going to be in this season. Christopher Lloyd is expected to make a cameo,
Right.
and then the new headmaster of the school is Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I guess
Yeah, it
they're
is
keeping that under
interesting.
wraps, but
Yeah, this seemed focused on the Addams family
Yeah.
specifically.
And then the introduction of Joanna Lumley as Grandmama, who I personally know from James and the Giant Peach, the Roald Dahl adaptation where she plays
Yeah.
one of the ants. And
Oh.
yeah, Tim Burton did not direct that, but it was directed by Henry Selick, who also directed Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. So
There you go.
yeah, it's still a little bit of a tie-in to
staying in the family.
the Burton
Yeah.
verse, if you will.
You
Yeah.
can see the inspiration for sure.
Mhm.
Well, apparently there was also footage for Stranger Things season 5 and Nobody Wants This season 2 shown, but not released to the public. So
Very
don't-
rude.
I know, right?
Sucks to be us.
Yeah, I
I
really
know.
hope that they drop this during Tudum, and then we all get it, because it just feels like, I mean, like we're supposed to get both of these this year, and I know that we're barely 6 months into the year, but it feels like they should be dropping these teasers now.
Well, yeah, if they're trying to drop the shows this year, I would think so. And also, we know, I mean, Wednesday is coming in August, right? So they gotta.
What gives, Netflix?
I know. I mean, I imagine maybe they'll hold Stranger Things for closer to Halloween.
Or Christmas? They like
Like-
to drop. They like to drop Stranger Things during holidays, and I don't think they've really done a Christmas drop yet. Have they?
Yeah.
Or maybe they have with the lights. I can't remember. Maybe the first season, but that would be a good bookend if they did do the first season around Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that with Wednesday, they're doing it in batches. So a couple
That
episodes
seems
on
to
one
be
date.
the new trend for Netflix for the bigger properties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of a slow admission that it's better when they do one episode a week, but Netflix is still doing their batch sort of drops. So I like the halfway, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, just give them a couple of years, and then they're going to come out and announce that they're moving to a weekly episode release, and they're going to act like it's this revolutionary new thing that nobody's ever done before.
You know what would
So-
actually be revolutionary? If we could only get Stranger Things Season 5 mailed to us on DVD and Blu-ray.
Oh, dang.
That would
Yep.
be friggin' insane, and I would be so here for it.
And then if you had to, like, wait for it because it was
Like, the
in
mail
high
carrier was
demand.
slow. Yeah.
Well, yeah, remember back in the day when, like, if something was in high demand, you might have to be put on a wait list.
Oh, you were put on a queue?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I also remember is that those Netflix movies by mail shipped faster than anything else in the USPS. So that was always very
Yeah.
exciting to have.
I also thought it was really funny that when they got rid of that program, they were like, if you guys still have your disc, you can just keep them.
Good, permission. All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. It's
Okay,
like,
because I'm
great,
pretty
so we
sure
don't
I
have to
still
worry
have
about-
a copy somewhere.
Yeah.
And something else that stuck out to me is very interesting. And Pam, you just mentioned Roald Dahl a minute ago. Netflix is going to have a reality series called The Golden Ticket that is based on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and just based on what happens to the kids in that book and that movie, this sounds terrifying. I cannot imagine what the hell the premise of this show is going
Getting
to be.
sucked up a giant chocolate-filled tube. and
Right?
you lose.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope it's better than that Wonka event in Glasgow.
I was gonna say, wasn't that already our reality TV series? Was the
and
Glasgow
it was
phenomenon?
so bad.
What happened?
Oh,
It
Should I
was
just Google it?
Yeah, it was basically like a scam, almost like Firefest, but like Wonka themed. So they had promised all this stuff and then under-delivered, and there was basically nothing there when people got there. Like there was stuff, but it was definitely like not what they had promised.
here's a
Yeah.
quote from one of the actors that was working it. I thought, this is where dreams go to die.
Wow. Well, that will be maybe it's a Netflix version of the Fear Factor.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it also just maybe feels like American Squid Game in a way.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
They're like
Well, season
highly
3 of
refined
that
processed sugar. This is the American version of Squid Game.
is, yeah, well, speaking of Squid Game, season 3 is supposed to drop, and I'm surprised that wasn't on the list for Netflix either. So
Yeah. But again, like, you know, a lot of these, like, the reason the upfronts, like, they're not, I don't want to say it's becoming obsolete because it's really not, but these studios don't really like announce everything now because they're also trying to save stuff for their own events, right? Their own branded events.
Oh,
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
so, like, I'm kind of wondering if, like, maybe that's when we get these, like, clips that they didn't drop for Stranger Things. And
yeah, that
nobody
makes sense.
wants this and stuff like that. But time will tell. But I agree that if they don't do anything to promote Squid Game the final season, that's a missed opportunity for sure. I think we have one more studio to get through today, and it's Warner Brothers Discovery. So we're coming back around to the start of the show now
Nice.
with some real news.
So I'm happy to jump in here. It's actually more news than it is actual show that's going to be premiering later on in this year. It was supposed to. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was punted to 2026. And this is a little bit surprising because I think we all anticipate that season 3 of House of the Dragon likely will drop in 2026. So for folks who aren't aware, Night of the Seven Kingdoms is also part of the A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones universe. It takes place probably about 90 years or so prior to Game of Thrones. And it chronicles the adventures of 2 specific characters, Sir Duncan the Tall and his companion Egg. We learn a little bit of a secret about Egg along the way, and he's related to a family that may or may not be in House of the Dragon. So don't want to go into too much detail there, but he is definitely a very enjoyable character if folks have read The Hedge Knight and other sort of prequel stories to Game of Thrones that, you know, touch
Obviously,
on him.
they've greenlit probably about like 10 different Game of Thrones spinoffs, and they're all in like varying degrees of production since Game of Thrones ended. But like, does it worry you that they punted this an extra year?
I
Or
tried to
you
do a
think
little
that
bit
it's-
of digging
yeah.
to find out why. I haven't really been able to find anything yet. I mean, look, nothing is going to be the level of success that Game of Thrones was. So in that universe, I mean, we see it with House of the Dragon. It's the characters are fantastic. The world building is fantastic. The dragons are fantastic, but nothing will have that same level of success that Game of Thrones had. Does it worry me? I would want to learn a little bit more first, because I definitely think that this is a story that fans will enjoy, not just fans of the books, but fans of Game of Thrones, fans of House of the Dragon. So I don't know if they ran. I would assume production was wrapped if they were going to release it in 2025. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. I haven't read the books, but like, I just covering entertainment news, I know that, and you touched on like the timeline here in relation to the original Game of Thrones series. I think that like, as a point of interest, because this is much closer in terms of a sequel to the original property, that people will probably enjoy it a little bit more, and
Totally.
will probably be more excited about it. So
Yeah, you're bound to run into at least one familiar character who is directly related to Egg, who is in Game of Thrones. So
yeah, it was kind of like, I was actually surprised that they didn't go with this sequel before they did House Targaryen, because it just seems like it would be a natural next step for them to go with the
That makes
Duncan Egg
sense.
story. Yeah. So, I have a quick little thing from the WB Discovery Upfront, which is that the Pitt season 1 is heading to TNT. So this is good news for anyone that still has cable and also doesn't want to pay for HBO Max. If you've been wanting to check this show out, it will start airing in the fall on TNT, which most people have with their basic cable packages. So that's good news there. And then season 2 is coming out in 2026. So plenty of time for you to catch up on regular television if you just don't want to fork over money for HBO Max to binge it now.
It's cool that it's heading over there. I don't know if I've ever heard of an example of a streamer show going to cable.
It does happen sometimes. I can't think of the last time I've heard it happen. It's usually when it's like a joint production. So like, for example, the Bear is Hulu and FX, but they're both owned by the same parent company. So that's why it works out. But this, like, the Pitt is still a really new show, and I think this is really like a smart move on their part, because the show has done so well and it's gotten so much traction. It's a good way to kind of like bring in a new audience and try and grab some more subscribers who would be interested perhaps in grabbing a subscription when season 2 comes out. So
didn't ER air on TNT back in the day?
I thought it aired on NBC for some reason.
Yeah.
But I feel like I remember like reruns airing
NBC
on
is
TNT
in my mind too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I mean,
Fox.
there is a full circle moment with Noah Wyle.
Yeah.
The Pitt. But I was just like, if it's going back to the original network it aired on, that'll be crazy.
Yeah. Update, Micah, you and I were right. It originally aired on NBC.
Okay. So maybe I saw reruns on
I
TNT
think
or something.
we all saw reruns on TNT when we were too young to be watching ER.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
well, a lot
I
to
think
look forward to.
that's it. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for sticking with us and listening. We hope that we covered some stuff that'll get you excited for this upcoming television season. We do want to remind you that even though we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, What the Hype is still a new show, and we do need your support.
Just itty bitty babies.
We are little babies in the podcast world. So please follow us on your favorite podcast app and also leave us a review. This really helps make the show a success, and it's really helpful in terms of getting the word out to other prospective listeners. Also follow or subscribe to us on the social media platforms of your choosing. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram as What the Hype Podcast. And our website is whatthehypepodcast.com. On X, we are What the Hype Show. And if you want to email us about anything, you can do that at whatthehypepodcast@gmail.com. And we really would encourage you all to reach out and comment on the stuff that we're talking about, because we do want to start doing more mailbag episodes periodically. And so we'd love to get your feedback as you have it there as well. And then finally, we want to remind you to share the show or episode that you are listening to at the moment with a friend or family that might need some more information on, say, the Upfronts, or if you're listening to next week's episode, maybe they want a breakdown of The Last of Us. Share it with your fellow fandom and pop culture friends and let them know that we're walking through a different aspect of pop culture each week. And speaking of next week, what's coming up next week, Laura?
Well, Eric, I think you and I have an infected bonanza on the books, right?
Yes, I think that's right, Laura. Next week, we're going to be taking our golf club with us into the studio as we break down all of what the whole second season had to offer.
So you didn't want to use the golf club to break down the season, which is what I had originally.
Oh, man! It was right there. Micah, this is why we need you on these shows with us.
That's what I wrote, but it was just edited. But anyway, yes, go ahead.
I edited. You know what? I didn't. Oh, that was my whole thing. I'm sorry. When I was reading it, it didn't make as much sense to me, but now it makes perfect sense. That's on me.
I'll make that joke again on the
copy edited
reaction.
It's fine.
Anyway, Yes, all things Last of Us. It's been fun going through season 2 with Laura, sometimes Pam, and Chelsea over there, and Mark as well has joined a few episodes. So it's really just a good time for those of us who are all watching that show and wondering exactly how they're going to leave things this year.
Yeah, that's the big question.
Hopefully a cliffhanger, because season 1 did not end on a cliffhanger.
I guess that's true.
It didn't. Just saying. All right. Well, I still have to watch last week's episode, so.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
I told Mike I said he's going to like it.
Yeah, you will like it. Well, anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with us this week, y'all.
It's nice to just get excited about TV.
Yeah, I know, right? It is. And yeah, love getting together to chat about this with y'all every week. And so excited for what all we've talked about here today that we're probably going to end up covering in the next year. So
yeah, stay tuned for
fun
the
little
Denzel
preview.
Washington primer episode. Since I revealed myself to be such a
specifically
big fan.
Denzel. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in with us, y'all. We will see you next week to break down season 2 of The Last of Us. Bye.